It's Monday night, January the 30th, 2023. Her name is Vicky. My name is Tom. But I thought if I call her Betty, she could call me Al.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah.
Let's do it, Al.
Hey, this is what I know. This is what I know is Jesus Christ is King, and he is deliverer, he is creator, he is savior. And you know what? As much as we like you guys, you don't need us. If you have sleep paralysis, if you have a demon, if you have a stronghold, you call on the name of Jesus, use the authority of Christ, kick the devil out of your home, out of your life, out of your dreams, out of your sleep.
Amen.
Okay? There's something about that name. Remember that? God is faithful to bring deliverance. And I just want that to be clear. We don't say that all the time. Sometimes we beat around the bush before we get to it. But I wanted to come out of the gates right now and let everybody know, if you call upon the Lord, you can be saved. If you don't know him, if you are in your sins, he is a forgiver of sins. He is a deliverer, a redeemer, and he can rescue you out of whatever mess you're in. And if you're a Christian, if you're backslidden, if you've just had doubt in your life or lost your faith, God stands just to renew everything, to strengthen you, to encourage you, to rescue you out of the mess. So, guys, we are still standing on our very first show. This is the year of the bull, and we want to encourage you. Just go into this year, okay? Like a bull in a china shop. Start with yourself. Start with your own prayer life. Start with your own devotion life. Start with your own, whatever you have going on, flesh, sin, struggles, strongholds, okay? I saw the quote. I had it written down in my notes today. Be killing sin, or sin will be killing you. So, guys, this is our last week. Before we take a little break, we're going to take a little break, and then we're coming back for 5 more weeks, and then it's conference time. Vicky, today's the 30th. Tomorrow's the 31st. And then the next day is February 1st.
Whoa, it's closing in. Can't believe it.
After February is March. All I'm saying is in 2 days, we say the conference is next month. That's how quick it is.
Oh, man. All right.
So we're actually 2 months away right now from the conference, but it'll be here before we know it. So I just want to say this, guys. Just a couple of announcements about the conference. Of course, March 31st, April 1st, Out of the Darkness Conference. We're going to be there. The whole Through the Black team is going to be there. The Shatter Ops team is going to be there. If you don't know who Shatter Ops, that's the Russ Dizdar team that was left behind by Russ. They're still here working. Coach Dave, Mike Spalding, Kenny C is going to be there. Sherry Clausen's going to be speaking. We have Greg Reed, okay? Greg Reed is the featured speaker at this conference. He is the pioneer. He is the one who is the old guard, as he would call himself. Mm-hmm. He calls us the new guard. Hey, I appreciate that. That's a compliment coming from him. And he's going to be sharing his experience. Of course, author of many books, The Trojan Church, The Color of Pain, what else? War of Ages, and his book, Nobody's Hero. On and on. He's working on a book right now. So this guy, man, is just full of information. Amazing guy. He's going to be worth it alone. Yes, we're going to be live streaming it. So this is what I want to say. So if anybody's showing up early to the conference, okay, first of all, on Friday, if you're showing up early on Friday, then there's going to be a time in the afternoon, like a meet and greet, where we can do, like a Q&A, anything like that. We're going to be doing that for people that show up early. The time might be around 2 or 3 o'clock. We don't have that nailed down yet, okay? So that's going to be Friday if you're rolling into town early, if you're close. Now, for super early birds, okay, on Thursday night, there's going to be a time at the church for fellowship and prayer. We're going to have a prayer mapping time. And we are going to be crying out to God together. Okay. I'm going to share a little bit about what's going on behind the scenes, stuff I can't talk about on the show. And I'm going to give you guys some stuff to pray for. And we're going to lead in some prayers. We're going to lift these things up, lift up Through the Black, lift up whatever needs. We're going to lift up the conference. Okay. And we're going to fellowship and we're going to have a good time. It's going to happen for about 2 hours on Thursday night. So we're going to need people just to let us know if you're coming out to that. Okay. We need to get an idea of how many people are coming so we know what kind of space that we need to set aside. So anyway, just mentioning all of that stuff. Some people are going to be out there early. Looking forward to seeing you guys out at the conference. It's 2 months away, but we are planning right now. And I am talking to the guys behind the scenes and getting things ready and doing the schedule and booking the rooms and all that stuff. So it'll be here before we know it. But Vic, can't wait. This is our first conference that we've done. You know what I like? I like it when other people do the conferences.
It's a lot easier.
Yeah.
But I'm super excited and I'm so glad to be part of it. And I can't wait to see all my friends and meet people from the chat and who are supporting us. And it's going to be a blast. I'm so excited.
Yes. Agreed, my friend. Well, yes. Throughtheblack.com, by the way, that's the website where you can go get registered. There should be plenty of rooms left. If there's not, they're going to get more rooms blocked off for us. Okay. So make sure that you want to get your room reserved before the end of February, because that's going to be the end of the discount for the rooms. Okay. So just making sure everybody knows. But anyway, throughtheblack.com, that's where we have our t-shirts on sale right now. Hooded sweatshirts on sale. Thanks for everybody who's taken advantage of that. We're sending out sweatshirts and t-shirts here and there. And it just kind of helps us kind of keep things rolling. And we like it when people wear stuff. So that's cool. Don't forget, Vicky Joy's got a book. They only come out at night. Colleen James has a book, The Lie Effect, Overcoming Soul Abduction. So all of that stuff, we'll have it all at the conference as well. So Vic, lots of stuff. Last week, can you believe it's the last week?
No, I mean, we're just like cruising through these seasons. It's amazing to me. It's 2023. Like, wasn't it Y2K like a month ago? It's crazy. The time is just, I can't even believe it's 2023. And you're going to be
20. Holy, you just gave me goosebumps because you said Y2K.
Yeah.
Like, that's what we were talking about for several years.
Yeah.
Right? The year 2000. Now it's 2023. Thank you, Lord, for letting me live this long. I cannot believe, that I'm still here.
Years. So if we lived 23 years past Doomsday, then we don't have to worry about the 92nd to Doomsday. We've got another 20 some years.
We should be good, folks.
I think we're good. Don't listen to guys in oversized cowboy hats. You just follow the Lord. Take it cool. Yeah. Don't worry.
I ran across that picture that you sent me of me and Cowboy.
You're bad.
Over the weekend, and I chuckled a little.
That's put on for posterity's sake. Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
So, Vic, speaking of Doomsday, this last weekend it was Doomsday for some chickens. Did you hear about this?
I did hear about this.
So over the last maybe 6 or 7 months, how long have we been covering some of these stories about food factories, warehouses, crazy things happening? Now, I want to let's talk about this for a second, because when this first happened, I did like a little experiment, okay? Mm-hmm. Because I thought let's apply these, this same thing, but pick a random business. So this is what I did: is I picked flower shops.
Yes.
And I wanted to see if I could find 20 flower shops that had caught on fire in the last, however many years. And I did. There were across America all of these flower shops. So I wasn't necessarily saying it was debunked, but I wanted people to look at it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, and then even a couple days after that, some people like connected some dots that I hadn't seen. And I don't want to be the guy that like everything's a conspiracy.
I know.
But I don't like, also it annoys me, the guys that say, okay, not everything's a conspiracy. Okay, I don't want to be that guy either,
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Actually, yeah, no, almost seems like everything, a lot of things are not coincidence, right?
I know. You know what I love about these stories, and I'm saying that facetiously, is how it just highlights how hypocritical these people are. I mean, how many films have come out with the violin music in the back where we see all the sad chickens crying because they're stuffed into houses and they're being hauled onto trucks and we're being so mean and horrible because we're mistreating our chickens. And then you just go and like set it off like with a flamethrower. Like, come on, man.
I see this comment down in the chat here. It says excellent according to plan of the Easter Bunny Trail. So, and it's funny because it's just like a couple months ago, I was hanging out with my son on a Saturday morning and we were talking about getting breakfast. And then I said, I like started using words like with egg, like eggs on the beginning, but I would put in egg, and he was getting super annoyed.
I was going to say, you shouldn't push it or he's not going to want to eat out.
I know. So the more annoyed he got, the funnier I thought it was. And I kept thinking, I was like, man, where can we get a really excellent breakfast at?
It's so bad.
I said we need an expert chef to make our stuff like that. Like I had probably about 5 or 6 of them.
That's pretty good. Didn't Egghead on the old 1960s Batman have a bunch of egg puns?
I forgot about that guy, but
yeah, it was a bizarre villain, but yeah, Egghead. I wonder what Egghead would have to say about this.
Exactly. Yeah, put your egg put your egg puns in the chat, please.
Yes, please do. Please give him more ideas, more fuel for his son.
The yolk's on me. So extraordinary. Now that's one I didn't think of. So yeah. So I think it was in New Jersey. These chickens, they met their doom. And here's the story: firefighters continue to assess damage after a large fire at Basra Egg Farm. And so a chicken farm caught on fire. But this is interesting because the price of eggs, I think we've talked about on this show, is up considerably. Yeah. And, my wife and I, about 10 years ago, no, it's longer than that, 12 years ago, we actually bought chickens because of this very reason of what's happening now. Well, we were way too early and all of our chickens died. So I don't know what we're going to do now. Just pay full price.
That's the one downside to being a prophet, Tom, is, because my dad does this all the time too. You get this idea, you implement it, and you're dead on. You're just like a decade or two off.
Yeah. Story of my life.
My dad's always doing this too. I remember conversations we had at the dinner table with family in the 80s where they're like mocking him to scorn. And now, it's 40 years later and they're like, oh my gosh, you were so it's like
we were just off in our time a little bit.
Just 40 years off. It's no big deal. But yeah, oh my gosh, that's so funny. Yeah, Dad's been talking about getting chickens. He said to me the other day, he's like, Vic, I think we got to get chickens. I'm like, Dad, here's the problem with the chicken thing. It's like if we starve to death, we've got these chickens to eat, right? And I'm like, this is the guy that goes outside at night and flips June bugs back over because he feels sorry for them. I'm like, how you're going to name these chickens? You're going to talk to them every night. You're going to fall in love with them. You're not going to eat these things. There's no way my dad's ever going to slaughter his own chicken. It's not going to happen.
Well, I don't know if I could eat a chicken, but they provided us with a lot of eggs.
Yeah, the egg part is good.
Yeah, that was nice. We were giving them out to everybody. And I'm not so concerned about the price of eggs, but I'm concerned that there's not going to be any eggs. People are going to be fighting over eggs. They're going to be scarce. So, yeah.
Well, I'm sure Bill Gates or somebody will invent a plant egg for us, and it'll be just fine.
Yeah,
everything will be.
Then fine. I saw a video somewhere where somebody was cooking these Walmart eggs.
Oh no!
And they were really the texture was like really weird.
Oh no.
It was like really rubbery, and I don't know if they were cooking wrong or what, but it was, yeah, I don't know. Maybe they were being too dramatic. Just throwing it out there.
Okay. I thought there was going to be some horrible punchline there where I would be traumatized every time I ate an egg from this point.
Okay. So yeah, so that's out there. Okay, I'm trying to. Okay, don't look at the chat, Tom. So, well, speaking of doomsday again,
shell shock. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, there's this crazy. Has anybody seen this statue? What'd you see?
James said something about shell shock, like yeah.
They put up this crazy statue to represent women empowerment, female empowerment in New York City on the courthouse.
It's ugly as sin. As a woman, I'm offended that the only way you can artistically depict a powerful woman is to put Baphomet horns on her. What, like,
isn't that crazy?
Can I be
tentacles for arms and feet?
Can I be a confident in the Lord woman without you making me look like a demon? I mean, I don't get it.
It's so disgusting. It's crazy.
I know.
So let's take a look at this story here, and I'm going to read.
I got lots to say about
My glasses are dirty. So this is from the Catholic. This is the National Catholic Register. So these guys are pro-life allies, but how the satanic New York City courthouse statue is all about abortion. The statue wears a lace collar around its neck, which Sikander, that's the artist, has explained is meant to resemble the collar worn by late Bader Ginsburg, who died in 2020 and sat on the Supreme Court for 27 years. So there is the picture there's a side picture of the statue, a golden statue that has hair braids I think it's supposed to be hair braids, like in the shape of horns. And then it doesn't even have any arms. It has these weird tentacles coming out the side. Can you blow that up just a little bit, Katie?
Is that supposed to be the collar?
Well, no. The collar looks like Ruth Bader Ginsburg's collar. We'll try to.
Yeah, supposedly. Yeah. Like you put a collar on a woman, and it's because she's a judge, right?
Right,
not
right.
A dog or an animal.
Let's go. Okay, go ahead and go down a little bit. It says, and shocking new 8-foot-tall golden statue standing on top of New York City courthouse has sparked controversy, with many across the country reacting to its unveiling with disgust. One media outlet even called it a satanic golden Medusa. According to the artist who created the statue, it's a symbol of women's empowerment and an expression of support for abortion. The satanic imagery, so many have pointed out closely, resembles that employed by pro-abortion group dedicated to banning religion from the public square. The golden horn female statue, titled Now, of course, maybe Now stands for National Organization of Women, was made by Pakistani born. Okay, I was trying to.
She drives Escape.
That was the whole Escape thing. Born artist Shazia Sikander. Sikander, 53, has been an influential New York City artist for many years, serving on the Mayoral Advisory Commission on City Art Monuments and Markers in New York City. In 2017, a self-described citizen of the world, Sikander says her work is meant to take classical and Indo-Persian styles and imbue them with modern feminist inflections. According to the artist, the statue was commissioned as part of a cultural reckoning to better represent 21st century mores in public spaces, the New York Times reported. She described the statue as a fierce woman and a form of resistance. I wonder if she's ever seen a woman before. Like, what a woman, does she know women have arms and legs and feet?
Yeah, and we're not 8 feet tall.
Yeah. The title now is meant to call attention to Sicklander's belief that fierce female resistance is needed now after the death of U.S. Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, and since the national right to abortion was eliminated with the overturning of Roe v. Wade in June of 2022. Atop the head of the courthouse statue are large braids that curl in on themselves to form goat-like horns, according to Sikander. The horns signify sovereignty and autonomy. On Fox News, commentator Tucker Carlson decried the statue as demonic. The horn statue does bear resemblance to the image of the goat-like Baphomet used on the Satanic Temple, a self-described non-theistic religious organization that frequently engages in political protest of expression of religion on the public square. I wonder if the Satanic Temple is going to sue them now. They like to sue a lot of people.
Yeah, right.
The Satanic Temple, while employing the satanic imagery, states in a frequently asked question on their website that they do not believe in Satan. In recent years, the Satanic Temple has sued states with significant abortion restrictions, saying that these laws violate the group's religious right to practice its abortion ritual. The organization has also protested prayer in school and Christian-themed imagery displayed on public space. So they protested prayer in school, but yet they try to get their own prayer in school. So pretty hypocritical, if you ask me. Vic, at least they're being honest in their art, and they're saying that abortion is satanic, and this satanic demon loves the sacrifice of baby boys and baby girls. At least they're being honest.
Right. I'd be interested to read some articles, not from a Catholic perspective, like there are other people out there going, this is beautiful. I got a couple comments about this, though, and these are just like wild speculations. I'm not like saying anything, but it left off the page at me that she named it now, because you think she'd give it a woman's name or call it something, right? But so I know that sometimes in the occult, what they do is they take words and they scramble the letters. So what they're really trying to say is the scrambled version. And now can also be re-scrambled to own, O-W-N, and she's got a collar on. And I'm seeing a lot of occult blind imagery that's the exact opposite of empowerment. You've got a woman in a collar. She's owned. You've named it now. You scramble the letters. It says own. I know I'm off there, but I'm just saying this is the way my brain works. And part of the article we didn't read is the bottom of the statue. She's coming out of a lotus flower. And as we know, that is extremely, Eastern / New Age imagery. The lotus flower has to do with rebirth. It has to do with becoming your own God, self-actualization. So there is.
Why the arms? I'm sorry to interrupt, but why those ridiculous arms like that?
I honestly think that she has no arms. She's wearing a collar. I'd like to see her mouth. Does she have a mouth? I'm curious if her mouth is like.
I don't know.
I'm curious what her mouth looks like.
See if Katie can find, because a picture where she can find the collar and the mouth. Yeah, that's a good question. It looks like slavery to me. It doesn't look like freedom at all. Could you imagine? I mean, how is that supposed to uplift women? I just don't get it.
I know we're completely being trolled. I just think, okay, she does have a mouth. I was wondering if it was like covered up, or she was like, Orphan Annie without eyeballs or something like that.
What is this freak demon alien? Like, I
just don't get the collar. Now I see the collar.
Yeah. And
so look at her arms. They're like serpents, clearly. Yikes.
I don't know.
That's just
I don't know if they know anything about the devil, but he's supposed to be an angel of light. You know what I'm saying? He's not supposed to reveal everything. I think they missed that class. But it's hideous. It's crazy.
It is. But if it looks like braided hair, no one is going to put 2 and 2 together that looks like horns. I mean, that's what's just so ridiculous to me.
Oh, wow. I don't even know.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's insane to me. I can't believe. Probably 20 years ago, I wouldn't have thought much of it. I would have been like, oh, that's weird.
Yeah. I'm reading James's comment here about the potential tentacle looking arms here.
Yeah.
Perhaps referring to the
multi-tentacle facets of the New World Order.
Globalists once described the Eastern establishment as an octopus, many tentacle. Yeah. I remember that quote.
Hydra, right?
Yeah. DNA strands. Yeah, that's another good theory. Serpents, DNA strands, octopus.
What do you guys think? Yeah, I mean, leave a comment in the chat. Leave a comment in the comments. Hey, and by the way, guys, thank you for subscribing to the channel. Thank you for sharing it. Our channel is just growing by really leaps and bounds. Every week. It's super cool to see that happen. So we once upon a time we had almost 20,000. When I say almost, it was like 17, 18,000. And then we got knocked off. Here we are. Hey, YouTube, we'll be good this time. We promise. We promise. Hey, don't pay any attention to our next story, by the way.
Yeah, right.
So.
Oh, man.
Excuse me. I still get, for some reason, this time at night, my throat is messed up. So, well, Vic, okay, yeah. We got to be real careful mentioning this next story and things that we're saying here.
All right.
Because I just saw an internal leaked memo in YouTube that they sent out against the Project Veritas video that was released last week, where they did an undercover video and exposed some things from a certain company that manufactures certain things that you put into people's bodies. And it looks like kind of like this, okay? So that's what we're going to be talking about now. We learned our lesson, yeah. So, well, speaking of that certain thing, apparently in the UK, there was a military operation where, and anyway, hey, I just want to say we're just reading the story here, folks.
That's right. Don't shoot the messenger.
Yeah, don't shoot the messenger. But apparently, there was a military operation that spied on critics of that thing. You know that thing? So, and I don't think anybody's listening only in audio right now. Maybe you're at work and you got your phone in your pocket and you can't see what's going on. Well, you might have to pull it out to see what we're talking about. But let me just try to read this, and I'll probably mess it up because I'm not supposed to say some certain words here, some bad words we're not allowed to say. So the shadowy military operation was launched in Great Britain to conduct surveillance on critics of a certain treatment as enemies of the state. That's interesting, Vic. That reminds me of something.
Enemies of the state.
That reminds me.
So dramatic.
Yeah, of a certain operation that happened a few years ago when people tried to expose something called Hampstead. And there was a very, I don't want to give them too much credit, but, there was a network there that was semi-sophisticated. And they were, motivated maybe by money, maybe by hate. They weren't motivated by truth. So let's keeping that in mind. And if you guys know what we're talking about, the Hampstead case, and we talked about this weeks ago on a show with Hope Girl, and she exposed this whole operation. So I'll ask Katie to put that show in the notes, okay? But we're going to keep that in mind as we're reading this story here, and see if you see any parallels, okay? Military operation in the UK's Information Warfare Brigade were part of a sinister operation that targeted politicians and high-profile journalists who raised doubts about the official response, the Daily Mail reported on Sunday. The official documents exposing the domestic espionage operation were obtained by a civil liberties group, Big Brother watch. The documents were shared exclusively with the Daily Mail. They exposed the inner workings of the Counter Disinformation Unit, which is based in the Department for Digital Culture, Media, and Sport, and the Rapid Response Unit of the Cabinet Office. Influence operations were run out of the MOD's 77th Brigade, seeking to non-lethal engagement and legitimate non-military levers as a means to adapt behaviors of adversaries, according to the report. So, this is interesting. This follows that same plan that we saw a few years ago. Okay, we saw attacks, we saw slander, we saw libel, everything come against us because we said we believe the children, Elisa and Gabriel. Now, they, you could tell that they were under orders to not physically interfere with any of us. Okay, they tried to do a lot of things. Now, I had talked to people, received emails from people who were harassed to the point that they had to move out of London. We saw people go to jail. We saw people just harassed in all kinds of different ways. Okay, and who knows how many people is out there whose life was just destroyed by these people because they wanted to stand up for truth. Okay, so notice that non-lethal, term in there that it mentioned, and this seems like a very similar program. So let's read a little bit more. I'm sure, Vic, by the way, I'm sure this didn't happen in the United States. I'm sure it was just in the UK.
Never. In God we trust.
Yeah, no, nobody would do anything like that in the United States. Okay, so a whistleblower that contacted the Mail who claimed to work for the brigade said the unit had strayed far beyond its scope of targeting foreign powers. British citizens' social media accounts were even scrutinized, with the UK's Ministry of Defense in public has reportedly denied doing. Okay, so they're not admitting it. The Mail reports the UK government justified its domestic surveillance and censorship activities as countering disinformation and harmful narratives from purported experts. Okay, yeah, and yes, and it has been happening here. We know this. Okay, and that's why we can't even talk about it now the way we want to talk about it. And one of the biggest things that frustrates me is why we know. I'm not going to say anything else. Okay, the information was then used to orchestrate government responses to criticisms of policies such as the stay-at-home order, when police were given power to issue fines and break up gatherings. The Mail reported it also allowed ministers to push social media platforms to remove posts and promote government-approved lines, or should I say government-approved lies. The Army whistleblower added, "It is quite obvious that our activities resulted in the monitoring of the UK population, monitoring of social media posts of ordinary scared people. These posts did not contain information that was untrue or coordinated. It was simply fear." The whistleblower from the 77th Brigade told the Mail, "I developed the impression the government were more interested in protecting the success of their policies than uncovering any potential foreign interference, and I regret that I was a part of it. Frankly, the work I was doing should have never happened." And there you go. So, hey, anybody listening in the UK, God bless you guys. You guys we're in trouble over here. There's trouble in Australia, okay? Yeah. And there's trouble in the UK. God bless you guys. Stand up. And if you live in California, stand up. I was watching somebody earlier. I was watching a video by Peggy, the Healthy American. Really like her videos.
Yeah.
God bless her. And she is holding on strong to California. She talked about all the things she liked and all the things she didn't like. And you know what? Hey, that's cool. I'll take freedom. I mean, she was on vacation and she went out to eat somewhere while she was on vacation. She couldn't believe all the freedom she had. They actually brought her a glass of water without having to ask. Apparently in California, you're not allowed to bring somebody a glass of water unless they ask you. It's like, I don't want to exaggerate, but it seemed like she said it was illegal or something like that.
They were doing that in Minnesota. Dad and I noticed all of a sudden that we weren't getting water anymore, and Dad inquired, and they're like, "Oh, we only bring it if you ask." So I don't think it's like a statewide thing, but we were encountering that when we were in Minnesota too. Minnesota is like a little mini California. Like California is like the big cool brother that we have to follow around and like mimic because we admire it so much. That's kind of like my take on Minnesota. They want to be like a little California.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. You know what? I don't know. There's some cool places out there. I like to go hiking, and there's some cool places I want to go to and hike and go through, but I don't know if it's worth the price.
Yeah. Why don't you go camping at Joshua Tree?
Yeah. Well, we talked about that, right? So,
yeah. Woo.
Dude, Vic. Hey, yeah. Well, that was kind of crazy, huh? Let's talk about that for a second.
Yeah, let's.
What was that called? The Vampire Death Portal?
Yeah, Vampire Desert Death Portal or Death Cult or something like that. The Confessionals podcast.
Yeah, so Vic and I listened to, I heard about it from Vic, but a podcast last week, and it was like 3 hours and 45 minutes. I listened to it on 1.25. What do you listen in real time or do you listen fast?
I listen in real time, but it can take me like days and days. Like I'll do like a half hour and then I'll do a half hour the next day. Like I have no attention span for audio.
Dude, my son, hey, dude, don't tip me, okay?
I know, man. Scout
don't
out.
Don't tip me, Pastor. There's some vampires out there and we want to meet them.
Yeah.
So my son listens to things in double time.
Whoa.
And I'm like, I don't know how you catch all that stuff.
That's your skill.
Yeah. But no, there's a really good podcast. And this guy, man, I'll tell you what, he believes that he saw these things. And he's, his, you listen really closely, to his voice and the way he explains stuff. And it sounds real. He also admitted that, he doesn't know what was spiritual, if he was drugged or anything like that. But
right.
Yeah, one of the newest episodes on that. And that's kind of why we brought up the Joshua Tree last week when Plane Flyer was on. And wanted to go out there. Dude.
It was fascinating, and how this ties into the very beginning of the show when you were saying the name of Jesus, and that comes into play a lot in my research too with sleep paralysis, because the name of Jesus usually stops that. This guy was like not Christian or religious in any way, shape, or form, but I guess he had kind of like a little bit of a church going background as a kid or something. When he realized that he was like probably not going to get out of this situation alive, he was trying to run away, and then there were all of these obstacles which were somewhat paranormal, and it struck him to say, I walk with Jesus. So as he was taking steps and things were blocking, he was saying, I walk with Jesus, I walk with Jesus. And he basically got out of there alive because he was calling on the name of Jesus. And it was so cool to sit and listen to a non-believer try to process that. That was a part of the podcast I found so interesting. He's like, man, like, maybe there is some sort of like power in that name. I'm like, oh, you think? So it was really fascinating for me to listen to someone who's not coming from a biblical background explain something that was very spiritual and demonic, and try to square in his mind how these things were possible and what was going on. So it was very fascinating. If you got 4 hours to burn, check it out.
Yeah, if you got 4 hours, if not, listen to it in double time like my son does. Yeah. It's still 2 hours, but he explains how he got into that predicament and how the whole thing, I think he realized later was a setup. And they marked him to take him out there. And it was in the middle of the night. and he got out of that place. He went into a hospital, I think, and charged his phone, and he made a phone call. He got a cab for $500 back to Los Angeles. So,
An Uber for like
yeah. And he's like, I don't even care how much it is. I just want to get out of here. And it's a crazy story. It's a crazy story. I didn't mean to go down that rabbit hole, but
and I don't know if you thought this was nuts. He did like the last thing in the world I would have done. He's like regaling the cab driver the whole way up with what he just saw. I'm like, dude, I would just be sitting there like, I'd be so quiet. But then the cab driver's like, yeah, I heard this story before.
Yeah. He's like, yeah, I haul somebody out of here every week.
Yeah, right. Oh my gosh. Yeah, good times.
So I see this thing all the time. I don't know if you're a cab driver out of Joshua Tree.
Oof, yeah. You might want to be have your spiritual hackles up if you're gonna be out there at night. I think it just makes me wonder, Tom, like how many of these like beautiful places that we go and these tourist attractions, like how many of these are charged areas? Like we have no idea what goes on in them at night when the lights go out.
You know, when he was telling that story, I wasn't surprised. It's a perfect place to do a ritual.
Totally perfect. Absolutely. Yeah.
So
yeah, it was crazy. My dad and I almost went to Joshua Tree on our vacation in December, and I got some friends that live down maybe like an hour from there. And I'm like, hey, we might go to Joshua Tree. He's like, dude, he's like, you got to stay away from there, man. It's nothing but stoners. He's like, seriously, he's like, don't go there. And like, we wound up not going there, not because of that. And then here, like 2 weeks later, I listened to that podcast and I'm like, oh,
stoners and vampires, apparently.
Stoners and vampires.
Or
and bears.
Stoner vampires, maybe.
Yeah. Stoned vampires. Woo.
So,
yeah.
Wow. I don't know. I really like I just thought that was such a good retelling of that story. And even if for some reason it's not true, okay? Like that's not out of the realm of possibilities. People have faked that stuff before. I think that guy, something happened to that dude, right? I don't know what it was.
Yeah.
Something happened to him, but it was fascinating. So I wonder if anybody else has heard it.
It was totally fascinating. He did mention, he said that he wasn't drinking because he said when he got there, he realized someone handed him a beer and it didn't have a label on it and it was sus to him. So he didn't drink it. And he's like, I'm not going to drink. But then later on when the guy said, and you weren't drinking, right? And he goes, well, he's like, I had a drink, but I wasn't drunk. And so all it would take is him to drink one thing that was had a Mickey in it,
Right. And you know what that reminded me of? I was thinking of that scene in The Lost Boys where they took Michael down to the cave and they offered him some rice and then they told him it was maggots. And he looked down and then he threw it on the floor. And they offered him some noodles and it was worms. But it wasn't. It was noodles, but there was an illusion, right?
Yeah.
And that's kind of what that guy's story, like, there was some kind of supernatural thing happening, causing him to think he saw some of these things.
Yeah.
And then I believe some of them were real, but it was, who knows?
Yeah. Yeah. Right. I'm not like skeptical about these things. I mean, I believe there's some pretty wonky things going on especially in North Hollywood where they dragged him out of. But, I think it would be pretty hard. It's one thing to make up a story. It's another thing to make up a story that takes 4 hours to tell. I mean, it'd be hard to come up with those kind of details. And he was backing it all up with Instagram addresses and photos and stuff and voicemails and whatever.
Truth be told says there's so much evil in Joshua Tree. It's not stoners, it's tweakers and meth heads. Well, what a great place to be a vampire.
Sounds great. Woo.
I mean, none of those guys are going to turn you in.
Yeah.
I mean, they're going to call the cops. They're got a meth lab, right? So the meth lab's not going to call the cops on the vampires. So
it kind of makes me wonder, Tom, going off a slight little tangent here, the wildly popular best-selling album, The Joshua Tree by U2, there's no song on the album called The Joshua Tree. There's no reference in any of the songs to that place. There aren't whatever. It's kind of like, I wonder why they called it that. There is a song on that album. Someone in the comment section pointed out in the actual confessionals that there's a song on that album called Mothers of the Disappeared, which is interesting. So I don't know. I think I'm just kind of wondering why they chose.
That's a good point. And I was thinking about that as well, because, you know, that very famous 1987 album by U2, The Joshua Tree, which it's like, okay, what does this have to do with anything? You know?
Yeah.
So,
yeah, it's so iconic. It's like a lot of times if you say Joshua Tree, you're going to think of the album before you think even of the actual place.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you didn't even know it was a park. You know, I never knew it was a park.
Yeah.
I just thought it was a type of a tree, which it is, but
yeah.
So I think, I'm not sure, but what is the town I went to interview Jeremiah Dirt? I don't think it's Hesperia. Maybe it is. It's up north. And I think I saw some Joshua trees there, but I could be wrong. I don't know.
Oh.
I don't know. Maybe they only grow in Joshua Tree National Park. So, but okay, yeah, Hesperia. I thought, I don't know. Somebody correct me. Where are all our Joshua trees at? I think I saw some in Hesperia. So, Vic, you sent me an article the other day.
Yes.
And, well, when you sent it to me, I didn't have time to look at it. But then I went back later and looked at it. And I was like, what the heck is going on here? Where did this happen at?
Yeah.
And then I read it and I was like, no, this isn't true. I thought maybe this is an old story, right?
Nope.
Like from 10 years ago.
January 2023, ripped from the headlines.
So, well, I don't know if I would say headlines because I haven't seen it anywhere. Has anybody been reporting on this?
I think in Pennsylvania they have been. I don't know if it's made, national. But there was a lot of, the more I read, like the first article, I was like, man, that sounds like a little Black Awakening. But again, I'm not going to assume that for every little thing. Then I started reading other articles, one of which I'm going to read here. And there were a lot more clues in there, a lot more sort of triggering and mind control sort of aspects to it, and certain key players being mentioned. And so I don't know what was behind all of this, but it's a very intriguing story nonetheless.
Yeah. So people are talking about the desert in the chat here.
Oh, yeah.
So
Katie, can you bring up the York Dispatch article? It was the one that I sent last night at like 2 a.m. The York Dispatch one. I sent it last night. Yeah, you got it. Okay. So follow me. York County woman wrote in video before murder-suicide pact. So this is in Pennsylvania, guys. A YouTube video may have been an indication of what was to come for a family found dead behind their West Manchester Township home on Wednesday. Morgan Daub, 26, posted a video the day before she and her parents were found dead in a planned murder-suicide that said simply, "Follow me as I follow Christ." Morgan Daub's death was ruled a suicide, while the deaths of her mother, Deborah Daub, 59, and father, James Daub, 62, were ruled homicides by the York County Coroner's Office. All three died of gunshot wounds to the head. That video, along with 2 others, was posted to Morgan Daub's YouTube channel. Daub appeared in one of the 3 videos uploaded there, affecting a British accent and describing herself as a member of a royal priesthood. That they really blanked with the wrong family, Daub said in a video posted late last year, in which she declared that she was, quote, abdicating the throne of England, end quote. West Manchester Police Chief John Snyder reached on Friday, declined to comment on the YouTube videos or the status of the case. York County Coroner Pam Gay said she and investigators were aware of the videos. Notes left at the scene by each of the 3 family members indicated that what happened was a planned event. My release does say that there were communications as evidence that helped us know that this was pre-planned. These were from the Dobbs themselves. For some reason, it has been interpreted as communications from relatives. The communications were from them, notes they left. In a YouTube video posted in November, Morgan Dobb talked about being the next in line for the throne of England, but said she was abdicating that position. You will never have Morgan Elizabeth Dobb for queen, she said in the video. In fact, I don't think they will ever have a monarchy again. The Antichrist will seize it by intrigue and then set himself up as king. In a video posted in September, she talked about multiple shadow administrations running the country from the left and the right. In a note posted below that video, Morgan Dobb wrote, "My family and I are law-abiding American citizens, yet we are being denied fundamental human rights. We are daily enduring all manner of harassment and illegal, unconstitutional surveillance." West Manchester Township police officers were dispatched to the home just after 11 a.m. Wednesday for a welfare check after a neighbor called. When officers arrived at the home in the 2000 block of Loman Avenue, they found the Dobbs dead on the ground behind the home. No criminal charges will be filed, the coroner's office stated, nor will there be any autopsies because the investigation was consistent with the evidence found at the scene. West Manchester Township Police led the investigation into the incident. Members of the York County Forensic Unit also responded to the scene. Oh, there's a lot there. I don't even know where to begin.
I don't even know where to begin. Vic, what happened? What was a normal breakfast like at this family is what I want.
Oh my gosh. Well, and I mean, the fact that the parents were in on this as well. All three of them were in this delusion or were being mind controlled. And the mention to we're law-abiding citizens and we're being harassed and unconstitutional surveillance. I mean, it does sound a lot like they were maybe targeted individuals or there was some remote viewing or there. I don't know about you, but I mean, the mention of the Queen of England and I don't know.
I wonder where this was at geographically. What's the name of the city?
They're in Manchester County or Manchester Township, which is in York County in Pennsylvania. I don't think it ever gives the actual city.
Okay, I'm going to look up York County, Pennsylvania.
And we know there's a lot of, this kind of activity. The state of Pennsylvania has got so much going on.
So I don't know if the city of York.
It's York County.
Is in York County, but it's close to Lancaster, maybe.
Okay.
Okay, so it's down towards the south, over towards Philadelphia, over towards the east side.
Okay.
So lots of crazy activity there. I mean, you could probably pick any place in Pennsylvania, and I know of a corresponding case just because of working with Russ or talking with Russ or something like that. Anyway, I mean, that's one of the things we try to do is make a geographical connection. Like what else crazy was happening, in a place that was close by. Anyway, it doesn't matter. This could have happened anywhere and it would be crazy. I wonder what they talked about at breakfast time. Like, to me, it wouldn't matter who did the killing and the suicide.
Right.
They were all in on it, but for some reason, it's almost as if this girl was brought up and trained this way. If the parents were in on it,
that's exactly where I was going with that. Because if it was just some delusional kid who had a mental illness or who was on psychotropic meds, the parents being on the outside would see that as delusional, and they would be, they may or may not be concerned depending on the situation. But the fact is, she's 26 years old, living at home. Which what I'm just saying is there's a theme there with a lot of times. If it's a generational situation, a lot of times those people are held close to home. They're kept tabs on. But the fact is, like, I don't think it's that. They're making it sound like this girl somehow drew her parents into this and convinced them. And I'm kind of wondering if maybe it's the other way around. I mean, you don't just, okay, honey, yeah, oh yeah, you can shoot us both in the head, and that's cool. Like, they must have also believed that there was some sort of danger, or that the world was coming to an end, or that they really were in the royal line, or I mean, something must have led them to truly, as a group, buy into this storyline.
I would like to take a look at their library.
Yeah.
What books were they reading? I mean, this is what's going to go down is in the press is they're going to throw them in a category with us, right? That's what they would do. Hey, that family is crazy, like Vicky and Tom are crazy. Okay. Well, no, you're not paying attention here. So spiritually, what's happening there, obviously complete blinding by the demonic deception. These guys were delusional. Were drugs involved? Was it genetic? Vic, you said it about, I don't know. It just I wonder if she was being held against her will. At some point. I think of that really weird family out in California where the kids didn't even know how to speak English. Like they couldn't even speak good English because they never went to school. They didn't even know anything.
Right. It's just, to me, this narrative that we're supposed to be buying into now, that every single crazy out there thing that happens is a mental illness. I mean, we're up to like 40, 50 million Americans now that are supposedly on psychotropic medication. And I don't know how many hundreds of thousands of people are supposedly mentally ill. Like, I just don't believe that think what our culture and our country would look like if tens of millions of us were mentally ill. There's a point where we've got to open up the possibility that some of the things that are going on out there are not simply and always and only because someone's mentally ill or delusional. Now, it could be a which comes first, the chicken or the egg sort of a thing, because I think that people that are, demented by things do take on all the characteristics of what someone would define as a mental illness. But I just think as long as we're going to continue to deny that anything spiritual is out there, there's no spiritual realm, there's no cosmic war going on. I think that the world would look a lot different if millions and millions of us truly were all psychopaths, or sociopaths or mental. They come up with other reasons for some of this stuff.
I was watching this interview, and I actually still have it pulled up, where Jordan Peterson is talking with Andrew Huberman, who is a neuroscientist. Okay. And it was really fascinating because this guy was explaining a lot of why we behave the way that we do. And I think there's some value in hearing this guy out. Now, I don't subscribe to everything he believes, okay? But just and hang on with me for a second, okay? Because this goes along with what you were saying.
Okay.
He used the example of not adrenaline, but what's help me, Vic. When you get excited for something, your not your adrenaline goes up, but
the dopamine.
Yeah, your dopamines go up, okay? Because you're anticipating something. So if I say, hey, we're going out for ice cream, okay? And then it's like spike and you go way up, right? And then we get to the ice cream shop and it's closed. Then what happens?
Oh.
Crash.
Despair.
Yeah, now you're lower than you were. So it would have been better to never say that we were going for ice cream.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Now, I'll tell you, it's funny. Now, I never had it explained to me that way, but I kind of instinctively knew that because I do that a lot of times in my life. I try to. We even have done it in this show historically where we don't tell anybody who's coming on because they could cancel on us. You know?
Yeah.
Jared and I operated by that rule for a long time. We would never announce a guest ahead of time. Because we didn't want to, it's more disappointing, you know? And we just kind of thought everything seems so shaky, you know, and there's spiritual warfare going on behind the scenes, and we didn't want to make a promise we couldn't keep. And very rare. I mean, there were some times we would announce, but for the most part, it was a surprise. So, but anyway, I do a similar thing in my family. You know, I'm better at keeping secrets than my wife is. Like, okay, I'm like, don't tell them that we're going to do this thing or we're going to go to this park or whatever, you know, just show them. I'll tell you one thing I did for my kid, my son, when he was young. I took him to this thing. Okay, this it was Tony Hawk's Boom Boom Huck Jam. Okay.
Oh my gosh.
Now, my son loved skateboarding and stuff like this.
Yeah.
So I was able to get him all the way to the place where it happened. And he walked out into the Coliseum or whatever. And then he saw all the gigantic skateboarding ramps. And I always love doing stuff like that. But, okay, so Vic, the reason I said that, okay, is if we understand, excuse me, just that principle right there, that law of life, okay, that law of what do we call it? Neuroscience, okay?
Okay.
And we could adjust our behavior accordingly, you know, and kind of trick life, so to speak, or trick your mind to, hey, I'm not gonna act, you know, because I've done this, right? I've done this in my life. I've done this when I've had disappointment. You know, I tell my wife a lot of times, I'm like, okay, I don't want any surprises. Okay, like if I have my day planned out, I don't want like all of a sudden, hey, we got to do this or this pops up, you know.
Yeah.
And some things can't be controlled, right?
Right.
But I've had times in my life where I've acted pretty childish when things didn't go my way. Okay. And I'm just, folks, if you look in the mirror, you'll see somebody else that has done the same thing. Okay. So, but I'm just being honest here. So, we could say, oh, this person is this, it's a stronghold, it's that, you know. Well, it's normal human reaction and all of the chemicals and all those things happening. Now, on top of that, throw in spiritual attack, throw in spiritual influence, throw in spiritual deception, throw in spiritual, you know, blinding and the devil in the details, okay? And Ephesians 6 and 2 Corinthians 10. You know what I'm saying? I mean, what do you think about what I'm saying? And I don't want to skip over the story. We kind of went down a rabbit hole, but
yeah. So I think where you're going with this just is how well, I'm trying to get my mind around it, but
well, you mentioned like we have all these diagnoses for everybody's crazy and everybody's on these drugs.
Yes. Yeah. Sorry, I forgot. I was tracking with you and I forgot my original point, but yeah. So there's a point where logically we have to start opening up. You know, I understand that not everyone's going to buy into a Black Awakening scenario. Okay, I get it. There's a lot of Christians that aren't even going to buy into that. But somewhere between what we're seeing in that extreme, if every single thing gets chalked off to a mental illness, logically, if there's millions of people now that are mentally ill, our culture would cease to function. We would all be insane. We would all lack discernment and judgment and self-discipline. Like companies would be closing, employees wouldn't be showing up. The fact that we are still in a somewhat functioning society says to me that when these one-offs happen, it can't always be this statistic. And I don't know. I mean, I've got really strong feelings about the DSM-5, and I've got a lot of strong feelings about how it's interesting to me how in the New Testament, when people would come to Jesus to be healed of a malady, like I'm blind, I'm deaf, sometimes he would cure them, and sometimes he would cast a demon out of them. And it's hard to talk about this because what people go away hearing you say is, you think that every single person in the world who has autism or epilepsy has a demon? No, I'm not an idiot. That's not what I said. But what's interesting to me is sometimes Jesus cured them at a genetic or a physiological level. And sometimes he cast out the demon that was the one wreaking the havoc. And that by proxy of the demon leaving, the ailments went away.
That's why we test the spirits. Yeah.
Right. So at this point, we live in a society now where anytime something's physiologically or physically or mentally wrong with someone, they go to a hospital, and it's never anything spiritual. Like, we don't ever take that into consideration. This is purely something for a doctor. And, I mean, it says in the scriptures that to heal someone, you confess your sins to one another, and then you bring them and you lay hands and you anoint them with oil and you pray for their healing. And we don't do that anymore.
Vic, they're even doing that in Christian schools that teach Christian counseling. They're telling them to look for to rationalize every physical thing that could be wrong.
Rationalize.
And that the chances of it being spiritual are so slim. I talked to this kid. This has been years ago, but this kid went away, man. He was so excited. He was on fire for the Lord, and he went away to Christian school, and he came back, and they just taught the I don't know how to say it. I'm just going to say what I want to say. They taught the Jesus out of him almost. Excuse me. They taught the truth out of him.
Yeah.
And I remember talking to him. I was working a job, and he was back from a break or whatever. And I remember him before, and I remember him after. And they had just systematically trained him to reject spiritual truths. And I was there behind him. He had been to 1 year of college.
Whoa.
And I had taken Russ Dizdar courses. And he wanted to be a counselor. And I started asking him questions. I said, what do you do about this? What do you do about this? What about this? And then what about this verse? What about this scripture?
Yeah.
And he did pretty good. He had an answer for a lot of things, but I just called bullcrap, very nicely, with gentleness and respect. But, so I mean, I hope people kind of get what we're talking about. I don't know if medication would have helped this family or not. If somebody couldn't have got to him with Jesus, then maybe somebody could have got to him with some kind of medicine to hold them over until somebody could got to him with Jesus.
Yeah.
Something was definitely wrong. I mean, there's so many questions. If I was investigating this, I would want to see the books they were reading. I would want to know the grandparents on both sides of the parents. Like, who are these guys? What happened? What was their upbringing like? There's got to be more to the story. This just doesn't happen. Not like this. Now, no. Vic, a normal story like you and I would have covered last year would have been the kid kills the parents. Or the kid goes into a school. Yeah.
Well, and what's sad about this story is because all three of them were in on it and they were all agreed to it and they all left letters and they all left suicide notes, they're not going to investigate this. They're done. They're not even going to do an autopsy or anything. They're done. So wouldn't you as an investigator or even like a forensic psychologist, wouldn't somebody be interested in how did this happen? And maybe we can figure something out so we can help other families that are, I don't know. But I get the sense that they're just like, hey, case solved. It was a murder-suicide pact. Here's the notes. Here's the bodies. We're done.
So how do you track this? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, how do you spot this in your neighborhood?
Oh, geez. I don't know. I mean, the thing is she had a few YouTube videos, and I didn't get the sense that she had a lot of them. But it's like, how do you know? Because it's like, I've never stumbled upon a YouTube video that has seemed like a cry to help to me. You know what I mean? I mean, I certainly have seen my share of YouTube videos where I'm like, that person's probably a little nuts, you know? But I mean, what would you do, Tom? Like, let's say you click onto a random YouTube channel and it's some teenager just talking stupid about shooting up his school or something, right?
Yeah.
Because a lot of these guys, when they get caught, there's all this evidence on their social media that they've been planning it for months. So like, where were these people? Do people just think it's a joke, or they just think, oh, teenagers and their angst? Or, you know, what is the protocol for raising your hand and notifying police when it's someone like you don't know, but they're clearly showing the signs like on social media that they're a train wreck ready to happen?
Yeah. Yeah. You know, this is somewhat relevant, but years ago, there was a kid on social media that was just talking crazy, suicidal. And at this point, I had a little bit of a reputation of being known, you know, as somebody that could help.
Yeah.
So somebody reached out to me and they said, "Hey, you gotta help this kid." And I got on there and I saw the things he was saying, and I wasn't impressed. I was like, okay, I don't know what's going on with this kid, but tell this kid if he wants, you know, I think I might even posted my phone number. I was like, hey, if you want help, call me. I'm not gonna chase you down, dude. Sorry, guys. Got a tickle in the back of my throat tonight. So he actually called me and we prayed and I did a freedom encounter right there. And whatever it was released, you know, it released from him. And Vic, actually what happened with this kid is he went to a deicide concert. And he said something got a hold of him at that concert and he couldn't break. For anybody who doesn't know, deicide is a very satanic band. Okay. And they're talking about killing God, deicide, you know, deity, side meaning kill. So yeah, Glenn Benton, the lead singer, has an inverted pentagram branded on his forehead. So this guy, he liked that kind of music. He went to that concert and he was having suicidal thoughts ever since he left. And I prayed with him.
Wow.
I've been friends with him for years, hoping he'll come up to the conference here. He lives kind of close to there. So I invited him up to the conference. But anyway, we can't get them all, right? That was just one kid, and I didn't take it super seriously. I was like, dude, if you want help, you know, I didn't chase him down. I said, you call me, you know, and he did.
Yeah. Wow.
I see things, we see things, we try to help the best we can. I don't know, man. And you know what? Sometimes I see things and I'm like, this is going to be a headline one day. You know, this is going to be a headline of a newspaper and it's not going to be pretty.
Yeah.
So, and we just pray in Jesus' name, Lord, rescue these people, help these people. I remember in this town that I live in, matter of fact, this road that runs this way over here, I had driven up and down it, I don't know how many times one day, and I found out later on that a guy jumped off a bridge that I drove over a couple times that day, you know? And I just thought, man, I wish I could have been at the bridge at the right time.
Yeah.
But the question is, how do we know? I don't know. You know, I hate the national, who is it? The security group. If you see something, say something. But I like Matt. He says you matter, and he goes around, you know, and he holds a sign up, you matter, right?
Yeah.
I think that's really cool. That's a great message.
Yeah.
And we're saying, hey, if you are in the sound of our voice, you can do this. Okay. If you know about somebody, guess what? That's you. And we're here to encourage you, to pray for you, to help you. We'll do anything we can. First one's free. We'll walk you through it, right? But that person was put in your life, not in our life.
Yeah.
But we're here to help, and we realize there's intimidation and all that stuff. Okay.
Yeah.
So
I think it's also important to know that a lot of times, we all like to tell these stories like, oh, I ran into a guy on a bridge and I saved him from suicide and he came over for Thanksgiving dinner and he's part of the family now. Like, we all want this perfect little story. But the fact is that a lot of times when we intervene into these situations, I've had 3 times in my life where I've intervened with a suicide or a DV sort of a situation. And all 3 times, it blows up in your face every time. They're mad at you. They hate you. They never speak to you again. You cause all this trouble. You embarrass them. You did this. You jumped the gun. You thought, how could you think I could ever do something like that? Like, you never really wind up the hero. But fear of man shouldn't be what stops us, because in all 3 of those situations, they were mad at me. They never spoke to me again. But I know for a fact that I stopped something really bad from happening. So that's between me and God at this point. Hey man, if you don't want to hang out at the mall with me anymore, so what? You have a life now and you're not dead. So that's okay with me.
I got in trouble in high school for giving my phone number out as a hotline. True story. True story. It was a hotline we call and get saved. It's true. So,
and you got in trouble for that.
My stepdad was not impressed because I didn't plan it out very well. I'm like, okay, I'm not going to be around to answer the phone the whole time, right?
Oh man.
And one night on Christian skate night on Thursday night, somebody called and I wasn't there.
Oh.
So, anyway, but there were 2 people that I remember that I talked out of suicide. You know what I'm saying? They called up and helped. One guy got deliverance. This is when I was like 17 years old. So if God can use me, he can use anybody.
Yeah.
And I want to mention that because I'm thinking there's a person that's in the chat almost all the time and listens to the show. He sent me something over the weekend about somebody he knows, daughter involved in the occult. And he's jumping on it. He's handling it, right? And he's like, he's just like chomping at the bit. People are ready to go. So usually, this is what I found out: when you go looking for it, you don't find it. Okay, and when you're not ready for it or you don't want it, that's when it finds you. Like something pops up.
Right.
And I cannot tell you how many times where I'm like, okay, I don't have my A game today. I hope nobody calls. Guess what? Somebody calls, and then all of a sudden you get your A game real freaking quick. Because somebody needs you, right?
Yep.
So, but that's all of us, okay? That's how this show developed years ago. Jared and I talking about this exact same thing behind the scenes, and we're like, man, maybe we could help somebody, because him and I were helping people separately. And he would call me and ask me, hey, what do you do in this situation? And I would call him and it's like, what do you do in this situation? Right. Yeah. And then we're like, well, maybe we can have these conversations on air and we'll help more people so they can know what they could do in these situations.
Yeah.
So kind of funny how we come full circle tonight. But this is a real thing. And we've talked about this. And Russ and I driving down the road, we're like, man, we wish we see the headline. We're like, oh, I wish we could have been there. That's what we want to get to. And Russ and I've gotten tons of these calls that maybe would have been headlines. Okay. And we've said we're looking for the shooters before they shoot.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but the power of God is mighty, and the power of the enemy is no match for the presence of God, for the prayers of somebody who cares, and God can intervene and stop situations and do miracles. So I have no doubts, and we've heard the stories and I heard, just an amazing story just today about prayer answered. Okay. So anyway, Vic.
Well,
yeah.
I'm reading between the lines, and I think what you're trying to tell me is I should maybe answer the phone more when you call. I apologize, and I will do better.
Good. Well, I didn't want to come out and say it, so
message received, bro.
Yeah.
I gotcha.
Very good. Very good. No. Okay. Well, I didn't know you would be so accepting. I wouldn't have made such an elaborate case.
Next time you just tell me.
Yeah, next time I'm just going to come right out.
Hey, next time you have something like that, just call me and I'll call you back.
When I'm eating breakfast at noon.
That's right. Oh, well, it's funny when you called and said that you were eating breakfast at noon. I hadn't. Granted, it's earlier here, but I hadn't eaten yet either. So I'm like, well, Yep, that's right. I got to get my priorities straight. I don't always have time to eat.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up, Vic. You do.
A little special time. I do. Oh man.
Let's put the subject on you now,
dude. Oh my gosh, I've got like the circadian rhythm of like a 16-year-old boy. It's just ridiculous. Like up all night, eating a ding dong for breakfast at 1.
Yeah, I've had some changes in my family patterns recently, and it's got me all messed up.
Yeah. So. I try. I keep trying, but man, I'm from a long line of night owls. It's in the blood.
Well, that'll come in handy when we go to Joshua Tree.
Yeah. Yep. For our all night camping expedition.
Vampire hunting. Yep. Guys, this is Through the Black. And we love hanging out with you. We're going to be back a couple more nights this week. We've got some shows lined up. I'm excited to see what happens on Wednesday night because I don't know what's going to happen. Tomorrow night, Psychonauts at Large. Do you know what a Psychonaut is? Because I sure don't. I'm going to find out tomorrow night. And hey, Thursday night, it's going to be the Reclamation of Colleen.
Ooh,
she's in the hot chair, the hot seat on Thursday night.
Is she going to interview herself, Tom? How's that going
to No. I'm actually going to interview her.
You got an overtime this week.
Yes.
All right.
So, hey, we've got a show for you lined up on Friday and Saturday. So, guys, hang out with us this week. We're going to go out and what are we at? What's our subscribership at? We're up over 14, approaching 1,500. So we're halfway to 3,000, 1422. Thank you. Through the Black. So yes, super cool. And not just 1422, but 1422 quality friends. So guys, thanks for sharing. Thank you guys. Thank you for your support, for your prayers. Hey, if you got a minute, if you got 2 minutes and you want to say a prayer for Vicky and I and for Katie, Sean, and Colleen, and all of us here at Through the Black, we appreciate it because the enemy does not want this show to happen. He does not want this conference to happen. And he is, he's going to do anything he can to come against us. So we put it all in God's hands, and the enemy is no match for our Lord. But it's going to be a great couple months of getting ready, for the conference and all that stuff. And Vic, we got, after this week, we got 5 more weeks of shows. So good stuff. Awesome. Last word, Vicky Joy.
Ooh, I don't know, man. Tune in tomorrow. It's going to be a great show. Thanks, everybody. And I think just the word going all the way back to the beginning of this is Jesus is name above all names. We don't have to be afraid of man. We don't have to be afraid of demons. We don't have to be afraid of creepy statues in New York. We've got Jesus on our side, and he is going to deliver and protect and guide and love us the whole way.
Thanks, guys. We will see you tomorrow night. Bye.